Aloha and welcome to our first video recorded workshop series for our UH West Oahu Garden Aina Tu'opu workshop series. My name is Tasha and I'm the program coordinator and garden manager here in our garden. This workshop series is usually hosted on campus in person to give our campus community some ideas about what we can be doing with some of the produce that grows in our student garden. But because we're all doing the pandemic pivot, the workshops will be available online this semester and potentially next. And so today we have the honor of being welcomed into the kitchen of Aunty Ngahiraka Mason, who is the partner of one of our colleagues here, Aunty Manu Myers. Aunty Ngahiraka is an artist, art curator, master preserver, just all around amazing, fun auntie to hang out with. And so we're really excited to go up the hill to Waulama, where they live, to learn how to make a spicy tomato jam. And although the produce, so we usually feature produce that is grown in this garden, but because our friends at Ma'o had some really gorgeous tomatoes that they've been growing this summer, we thought that it would be nice to highlight those and extend the taste of summer, I guess, through this jam. So let's get started.
We are making tomato chili jam and all our ingredients are displayed here. So the first part of making the jam is to prepare the basic ingredients, and with the tomatoes that just means chopping them. And so have a sharp knife. These are roughly chopped, and it is a little bit difficult with the glove on, but get them as not finely chopped, but enough so that they will break up. The tomatoes will cook down and the skin will come off during the cooking process, and I quite like the chunky kind of I like chunky jam that's got, you know what the ingredients are because you can chew them. And if you don't want to go through this process, you can also just put it through a blender, which makes it a lot more finer, but you won't have texture. So this way I can just pick it up and put it in the pot. So I think we're working with about 3 pounds of tomatoes. These are beautiful, fresh, organic, amazing. I can smell them. They are just, you can smell the ripeness of them. They're firm. And they're fresh. Fresh is the main thing when you're making any jam or pickle. If the ingredients are fresh, not that you can't use frozen, because we will be using frozen chilies today, but you can, I don't know, it just has a different accent, if you like. So I'm going to put the stove on so that it will start cooking. and just keep adding the tomatoes. So I'm not using a high heat to begin with, I'm using like a middle heat. Make sure you get all the seeds in. Don't waste the seeds. Seeds are our friend in this recipe because we need the jam to set, and pectin, which is a setting agent, we get that from the tomato seeds. So in some jams, especially if you're working with frozen ingredients, you may need to add pectin. You know, I come across this idea too that you can use canned tomatoes. I've never done it, but there's no reason why you can't. People do swear by it. I just don't know how getting the jam to set as jam might work. So we're almost finished the chopping process. So this jam shouldn't take you more than 40 minutes to prepare from scratch. And by the time you start cooking it and heated the jars and prepared the lids, within an hour and a half at the most, you should have the taste of your chili jam. Like I said, do not waste the seeds, or make sure you use the seeds. And I've just very roughly put the juice in there as well. I love cooking. I love making things, preserves and jams. It's become my job in my family, which is kind of good. I don't do the dishes then, but so I'm really not good at doing dishes. But I don't know, this was a tradition in my home. I grew up with all manner of jams and preserves. My parents both preserved and jammed, and we had an orchard and a farm, so we always had produce, and so it's always exciting because you didn't know what was going to go and be in the jar, but it always tasted good. Sometimes the jam never makes it to the table, or I even have burnt things, and then they're ruined, so you have to throw it out, or find someone who'll be kind enough to eat it, even though it's burnt. And yeah, it's just the satisfaction of seeing something come off the tree, off the vine, and look at it in a different way. And a jar is an amazing way to look at fruit and veg. Just going to get a... Okay, so we're just going to... so you can see the colour is quite beautiful, but it will... the colour will fade because of the heat. So I'm just going to let that cook on, and we're going to use our chilies, chop our chilies. And what's the variety of chili?
Thai chilies.
Thai, oh my gosh, okay, these are going to be hot. We're going to use all of it. As they are frozen, normally with a fresh chili I would split it down the centre like this, and then take the seeds out. I'm going to do neither of those things, so this is going to be an extra a warm jam. So this is a rough chop. Seeds are going in.
So So are you careful about not touching the seeds? Because
Yes.
they can kind of linger on your skin and burn you.
Absolutely. And you can give yourself very bad eye damage if you wipe your eyes. So, and usually after cutting chili, I do wash the board and the knife. Put the lid on the pan because we want the fruit to get to a high enough heat that the skin will separate from the fruit and it'll start to break down. Mm-hmm. So that's the point that we want to be at before we add the rest of the ingredients.
And about how long does that take, or you just continually checking?
Just check it. Mm-hmm. Just checking the pot is always good, and never leaving the pot is better still. Mm-hmm. You might have an accident. Burn it. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Do you have to keep stirring it, or no? You just leave it
until it boils.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so an ingredient that I like to put in the jam is lemon juice. Sometimes I put the rind in as well, and maybe we'll put in a half a rind. So just juice.
Is that for the flavor or more pectin? Or?
For the I do it for the flavor.
Okay.
Because you know, sugar is sugar, and so it. I don't really have a strong sugar tooth, but the lemon to me, including that half a rind, kind of just balances out the sweetness.
Oops, sorry. And will that eventually, the rind eventually break down?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
I could have made the rind much thinner, but
or like zested.
Or zested, but the jam's chunky, so I'll just stay with the chunkiness of the jam. And that's good. Oh, those chilies are hot. It's going to be great. Okay, so the tomatoes in the pot have started to break down really nicely. So there's the skin, I can see that the skin has peeled off. There's some nice chunky bits of tomato and some nice pulp. And that is excellent. So we're going to add the sugar. And so this is 3 pounds of tomatoes. So I'm going to use 2.5 cups of sugar, which might sound a little bit extreme, but it will cook down and it will provide the syrup and help thicken the jam. So this is organic brown sugar. You can use white sugar. Actually, you can use any sugar you like, so long as it's sugar. And let that cook down. Oh, it's gone a beautiful deep colour. Okay, this is light brown sugar. It's 2 cups. Oh, yum. Okay, so the other ingredients that will go into this, they might sound a little bit odd to be putting in a jam, but it does enhance the flavour, and it keeps the jam, because it is tomato, even though tomato is technically a fruit, it gives the jam that kind of savouriness. So this is balsamic balsamic vinegar. So I'm going to put 2 of these in. And then we're going to try, I've never tried this vinegar in the recipe, but it is vinegar, and it's coconut vinegar. Again, this is 2 tablespoons. Oh, it's got a beautiful smell. Vinegar is like lemon, so it gives balance to sugar. And how would you say? It has a way of drawing out the flavours of the other ingredients. Alrighty, so we're going to add paprika. I love paprika. It's not that it has a heat. It does have some heat, but it doesn't have the same heat as chili. And it has a beautiful colour. I'm putting a teaspoon in. And then also chili powder. Now, although we've added fresh chili, I'm only going to put a teaspoon of the powder in. Okay, so we're going to let that simmer just at a soft boil, so I can see that the syrup is bubbling up, but we don't want it on a fast heat. So I'd say this is about maybe 15 minutes away from canning. So I'm going to start canning, and the first thing is to take the hot jars out of the oven. And in my style I will do 2 jars at a time. Now these jars are extremely hot, and I use this method of taking a jug and filling the jar. The jam has actually got a nice consistency, so that it's not runny, but it's also not too thick. So the lids go on. Now these should be heated but not boiled, so that you get a good sealing action happening. I'm just going to towel dry that. And the main reason why you should sterilize the jars in the oven to a heat where you cannot touch the glass because it's too hot, and also sterilize the tops so that it doesn't go bad, and you can actually keep them in the cupboard for up to 12 months. So there we have the first part of canning completed. So the main things to remember is you must have sterilized jars. That's hilarious. You must have sterilized jars first of all, and sterilize the lids.